Rise of prophecy in Israel. Rise of prophecy in Israel. In this unit, we shall examine the origin of Israelite prophetism. We shall examine who were narrative prophets, pre-exilic prophets, exilic prophets, and we shall also examine and enumerate post-exilic prophets. Now let's begin with the origin of Israelite prophetism. Prophetic movement in ancient Israel came into prominence during the monarchical period, according to Dada 2008. It is on record that Israelite prophetism, that is the practice of prophetic task, flourished during the 8th, 7th, and 6th centuries BC. For instance, Okweze in 1998 contended that the introduction of monarchy, that is kingship under a ruler, solves certain problems in ancient Israel, but equally precipitated new challenges. For one, by Samuel. This is found in 1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 11 to 18. In response to those challenges, there was divine protestations, principally in the form of prophecy. In the same vein, Dada 2008 outlined the origin of prophetic movement in ancient Israel thus. In the early stage of the prophetic ministry, we have the seer, S-E-E-R, in Hebrew, Hosea, H-O-Z-E-H, or Roe, R-O-E-H. 1 Samuel chapter 9, verse 1 to 9, whose principal function is to describe events, present or future, and also past, which are hidden from the ordinary man. A fee is usually required for the service of a seer. A perfect example of a seer was Samuel, who was consulted by Saul while searching for his father's ashes. We find this in 1 Samuel chapter 9, verse 1 to 10. With the rise of the monarch and the setting up of the great sanctuaries, the seers were no longer mentioned. At this period, the Nabis, which is otherwise translated as prophet, came into prominence. The stages were more or less like this: seer to the ecstatic band, otherwise known as Nabis, and then the next stage, classical prophets. 3 stages: the seer to ecstatic band, otherwise known as Nabis, and then the third stage, classical prophets. That is to say, the Nabi groups connected with King Saul in 1 Samuel chapter 10 came down from the high places of worship, making music, dancing, and were singing. Many of them, that is the Nabis, became consultants, became official prophets in king's palaces, were seen also as sycophants, lacking in repute, like the opponents of Micaiah son of Imlah in 1 Kings 22 verse 5 to 28. However, the like of Elijah and Micaiah stood in contrast to those sycophants in the early days of prophetism in ancient Israel, first leading to the era of classical prophets in the 8th century, prophets like Amos, Hosea, Micah, Isaiah, and later ones like Jeremiah in the 7th to 6th century. According to source SCHWARZ, source 1999, we have a presentation of a chart showing the rise and days of classical prophets of Israel. The first category is the narrative prophets: Elijah between 870 to 845 BC, Elisha between 850 to 800 BC. The second category, pre-exilic prophets, between 760 to 586 BC. Among these pre-exilic prophets, we have Amos, 770 to 750 BC, Hosea, 750 to 722 BC, Isaiah, 740 to 690 BC, Micah, 740 to 685 BC, Zephaniah, 635 to 620 BC, Jeremiah, 626 to 586 BC, Habakkuk, 615 to 590 BC, Nahum, about 612 BC, Obadiah, 605 to 590 BC. The third category, the exilic prophets, between 586 to 538 BC. First in this group, Ezekiel, 593 to 571 BC, and secondly, Daniel, about 500 BC. And then the last category, we have the post-exilic prophets between 538 to 440 BC. In this group, we have first of all Haggai, about 520 BC, Zechariah between 520 to 518 BC, Malachi 440 BC. Jonah is most likely within the post-exilic. Joel is also considered by scholars to be most likely within the post-exilic period. So far, we have talked about the rise of prophecy in Israel. We mentioned the origin of Israelite prophetism, in which case we said prophetic movement in ancient Israel came into prominence during the monarchical period, according to Dada, and that Israelite prophetism flourished during the 8th, 7th, and 6th century BC. We also noted that Okweze in 1998 contended that the introduction of monarchy solved certain problems in ancient Israel, but equally precipitated new challenges, for one by Samuel, which could be found in 1 Samuel 8, 11 to 18. In response to those challenges, there was divine protestation, principally in the form of prophecy. We also mentioned the three stages. We said we have the seer that metamorphosed into the ecstatic band, or known as nabis, and the third stage, the classical prophet. We categorize prophets into three: narrative prophets such as Elijah and Elisha; the second category, pre-exilic prophets such as Amos, Hosea, Isaiah, Micah, Zephaniah, Jeremiah, Habakkuk, Nahum, and Obadiah; the third group, exilic prophets, mainly Ezekiel and Daniel. And we mentioned that the post-exilic group of prophets included Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. However, we mentioned that Jonah and Joel seems to be post-exilic prophet according to most scholars. Thank you for listening.